from the Good God, conversations that matter about faith and public life. I'm your host, George Mason, and this is another in our series of conversations with people working specifically in the neighborhoods of South Dallas to address the issues of food security or food insecurity, depending upon how you put it. In this series called More Than Food for Thought, we'll be talking with nonprofit organizations and those who work with them about how they help to address this challenge to create more flourishing and thriving neighborhoods, specifically neighbors. And today, we're at 4DWN in South Dallas, and I'm delighted to introduce to you the Director of Engagement of 4DWN, Teresa Tumania. Teresa, would you come and join me, please?
Absolutely. Great to be here.
It's wonderful to be with you on this Sunday morning for what's called
Sunday service.
Sunday service.
Absolutely. And even though we do food recovery every day of the week, this is the day where our distribution goes out, and we especially get to celebrate service and celebrate the idea of feeding the community.
Wonderful. Now, why do we have to feed this community?
This is a zip code that is in a food desert. There are 12 that we service that are in a food desert, and what that means is that there aren't any grocery stores, or there's no viable source and access to any grocery stores. And especially grocery stores that do have good, locally sourced, nutritious food. That is definitely absent in these zip codes in these neighborhoods.
Okay, so you use the language of food recovery. Tell us more about that.
Right. So the recovery part is where we go out and we want to make sure that the food gets to the people that need it. The rescue part is where we get it from the stores, and then we bring that in. We get it from local farmers. We get it from some of our corporate partners like Whole Foods.
Yes.
And we bring that down here to 4DWN. We separate that all, and then it goes out and we recover it by taking it out to the families that need that food.
And how do you determine what families need that food? Where is the food going?
Oh, that's a super great question. So we like to target families who aren't really eligible for services normally, but again, we do feed anybody who needs that in those zip codes.
Hey, how you doing, Miss Teresa? I'm good.
If you are a family who can't get services because of some reason, maybe you're paperwork, or you make too much money, or something like that, you might be outside of those guidelines, then we definitely target those families here.
I think you just said something really interesting. Because you make too much money. So there is kind of a donut hole, isn't there, in the social services world. So what does it mean for you to make too much money and therefore be in more need than if you weren't making as much money?
Absolutely. You might be able to go to your local store and get a bag of Cheetos, but you're not going to see fresh fruit. You're not going to see greens. And making too much money means that you're not going to have that quality of life, period.
Right.
Food is your pharmacy. It starts with your poverty level and how much you're making. And if you're making too much, you don't qualify. There is a cutoff line.
Food is your pharmacy. So food as medicine is a really interesting point about all of this. And in our conversations that we've been having with other nonprofits, and you've been around this table, as we've been focusing on sustainable communities, specifically on South Dallas, when we talk about food as medicine, we're talking about the quality of food that is nutritious, right?
Yes.
Versus the kind of food that is not necessarily helping to create healthy individuals or families. So say more about food as medicine or food as your pharmacy.
Okay, food as your pharmacy is one of my favorite things because I very rarely bring up the fact that I've had to use that to bridge the gap from chemo to not chemo. I'm celebrating my second year of that. So This is something that I was raised with in my family, and I just thought everyone ate this way, but as far as growing their own food. But food as your pharmacy is so important because it is your first medicine cabinet. It is the way that you direct your body and teach it into the things that it needs. And of course, if things go wrong, so diabetes, hypertension, cancer, there's so many things that if it's not the cure for it, then it's definitely alleviates any of the symptoms. So
Okay.
food is your pharmacy, feeds that and your heart and your soul. You know, when I get to go in, I'm honored to be able to go in and meet with these families, and they might have a cultural need that they don't have any meat or dairy or, you know, pork in
Yes.
their diet. I can do that because of the quality of food. They might have children who are gluten-free, and normally they wouldn't be able to go to a food bank. Well, I can do that. You know, we can do that here at 4Down. We can cater to those. So much so that we do work with other corporate partners like Oak Cliff and places like that that do a customized medicine bag. They're actual programs that
Wow.
are doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have food for the body and food for the soul, both. You mentioned soul a minute ago. This program is called Good God, after all. And so everyone who is volunteering here on Sunday for Sunday service is not a personally religious person. They are humanitarian and obviously want to give back.
Right.
But is there a faith connection for you in this work that you're doing?
The faith connection is that it is spiritual. This is healing. Again, there's nobody that comes here. I can't imagine that you would come here and do this work and not feel better, feel good. So absolutely. I think that other than the fact that I believe in it
Yeah.
and I know that it works,
Good.
it's spiritual.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm here with Byron Harris. What a wonderful opportunity to get to reconnect here because the person behind the camera here, Byron, is Jim Tapley, and you and Jim worked together at WFAA for years and years. 41 years, I think you were a reporter for WFAA, Channel 8?
Yeah, a long time. In dog years, more than 200.
Okay, so there you go. But now in retirement, you find yourself continuing to be active and Habitat for Humanity, Austin Street Shelter, things of that nature, but also 4Down. You're here.
Yeah.
How did you get involved?
It's a long story. It's just like one person introduces you to another person, and before you know it, you get involved in a new organization. So that's the short version.
And behind us, all the way down here, is Byron's refrigerator.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, we ended up with an extra refrigerator, so I gave it to 4Down. I mean,
So when people come here, I think they're able to go into that refrigerator and take what they need. Is that right?
yeah. There's drinks and stuff there.
Right.
Mostly drinks for the skaters and the people who work on Sunday.
Right. You were talking with me earlier about the fact that there's also a container behind the skate park here that is refrigerated. What's that all about?
Teresa collects produce during the week that we can store in that cold storage to redistribute on Sunday mornings.
Terrific.
But it's a cranky machine, and it got broken into a couple weeks ago, so we were in progress.
Okay. Speaking about progress, I mean, it's hard to measure how 4Down succeeds, isn't it? But it's sometimes more the process than the progress. Tell us about your experience in the process, at least.
Well, my experience is just help one person at a time, and at some point it might gain critical momentum.
Okay.
So I coming out of journalism, you have kind of grandiose ideas. Well, we should do this. You know, if you're going to fix homelessness, you can't really fix it. I mean, but you might be able to help one person, and that's kind of like what I've learned, mostly, frankly, from women. I mean, the people who run a lot of these organizations are women, and they succeed because they don't have grandiose male ideas, in my opinion.
Okay. They just operate from need to need.
Yeah. They know somebody who needs something. They help that person. That person, if we're lucky, helps somebody else, and that's the synergy that might happen.
I think you just named a lot of the key of success of nonprofit organizations is how many women are involved in leading them and operating these organizations. And for those of us who are used to being in charge, to come along and learn from them is really an important thing.
Yeah.
Terrific. Well, thanks so much for all you do, and it's great to see you in the community. We're not seeing you on TV now, but now, well, we're kind of seeing you on TV. So great to be with you, Byron. Thank you. I'm here with Rob Cahill, one of the two founders, along with Mike Crum, of 4DWN, which started in 2015. And behind me, you see the skateboard park, and this is actually a rarity in the U.S. Tell us more about that.
Oh, this particular ramp here, so this is called a vert ramp, right? So this is the kind of skateboarding that Tony Hawk does. And in fact, my partner, Mike Crum, is part of Tony Hawk's Legends Tour these days. So,
wonderful.
So those guys can keep doing, this is sort of like the skateboarding flying trapeze, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
But the more common forms of skating that you see out in the streets and the neighborhoods and the skate parks, that's the predominant kind of skateboarding. This is a very, very rare thing, as you can imagine. It's a very specialized thing, and it's the only one in the whole country, professional vert ramp, that's sort of just available to the average person off the street. An average person could walk through here and skate with a professional skateboarder on this, like today, right now.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And there are smaller ramps around here as well.
Yeah.
But how do you get, Rob, from a skateboard park
Right.
to food distribution in South Dallas? What tell us about how all that came to be.
Right. Well, first of all, we had to make ourselves feel better, right? So we did something for ourselves. We helped ourselves. And then once we felt better, it's sort of a contagious thing. You naturally, you're inclined to help other people, right? And we didn't really realize, you know when you go from one part of town to another that, different parts have different needs.
Yep.
But we didn't quite realize the extent of the needs, right? So we happen to be in one of the nation's largest food deserts. It's also a recreational desert. It's an infrastructure desert. And so it's also the part of town that's most affordable, which is why we were always finding ourselves in South Dallas. Right. But as time went on, we meet more folks and different people, let us know about things. So we've learned quite a lot from a lot of our different partners. And along the way, we realized that our culture is a culture that takes action. We like ingenuity, and we're naturally inclusive. So if you have those traits and those qualities, and you're not afraid to try things, because obviously we're not afraid of failure or afraid of anything like that. So you put those qualities together and it becomes a contagious thing that we're able to help other folks because we helped ourselves to begin with, right?
What does the words 4DWN mean in a skateboard culture, or how did you come to use that phrase?
Right, well, that is a metaphor, right, about four wheels down and rolling, and it's sort of a celebration of just movement. So here, it's a metaphor about us all moving forward together, right? Okay. It's always rolling forward together. So again, it's a contagious, fun thing.
Terrific. Now you're wearing a t-shirt that says spiritual gangster. Okay, that's street lingo in some way, but it also goes to something of the soul of this work.
Yes, sir.
Tell us more about that.
Well, I think going back to the original thing is that, we all need help. Yeah. And those of us that are lucky enough to help ourselves, we might find ourselves in a position where we've been able to meet our most basic fundamental needs. And at a certain level, you find the need to find meaning and purpose and value in your life. And then you start to realize, well, all these other folks, they need things that are more physiological. They need food, they need water, they need shelter, they need clothing, they need, they need internet, for instance, right? So people can come here and get internet, they can get drinks, they can get food, so they can find community, right? So these are all things that we need in Maslow's hierarchy, so to speak. And those of us who've been lucky enough to make it to the top of that ladder, you find yourself in a position that it becomes a sustainable wheel. It's not a one-directional thing.
Ah, there you go.
Right? So then when you get to the top of that ladder, you realize, well, you know what? I actually find meaning and purpose in my life by helping other people who have these more fundamental needs that we're able to do something about, because we found out that 40% of food goes to waste, right? And here we are in a part of town that's there's over 40% of Dallas that's in a food desert, right? Incredible. Meanwhile, this food, when it goes to the landfill, creates methane, which is over 20 times more powerful greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. Wow. So you're helping the environment, you're helping people, and let's just face it, waste not, want not, right? It's just a basic principle, right? So it's a unifying thing because anybody and everybody has felt being hungry.
Yes.
So you realize that feeling. So when you're helping people not feel hungry, you feel good.
And here we are, Sunday service, and there's probably a congregation here of about maybe 40 people that's helping to break down the food that has come from Whole Foods, and they're repackaging it for distribution to hungry and needy neighbors.
Yes.
And yet, when you look at this congregation, these are people from all walks of life.
They really are. They really are. And I'm always shocked to find out who these people really are in their real lives.
Yeah.
A lot of these are rock stars in their real lives, lawyers and doctors and movers and shakers, but when they come here, it's an egalitarian thing.
Right.
You're here because you want to, you choose to.
Right.
So it's an act of empowerment. Now, some of our neighbors here actually don't have homes,
Yes.
but they're here helping other folks at the same time. So you have just the greatest diversity. But again, we're sort of just like that. We're just sort of open and welcoming, because what unites people here is more about values. So on the surface, it's like, how do you get all these weirdos together?
Right. Cool.
But really, because we're connecting at a value level.
Right.
That's why you see the diversity, because humans below that surface level are quite the same, right?
So for people watching this, the website is 4DWN.org.
Yes.
And you can find out more about what 4Down does overall, but also you can donate and you can come volunteer.
That'd be great.
Okay.
We need all that.
All right, terrific.
There's a
Thank
lot
you
of ways
so
to
much,
help.
Rob.
Thank you.